Welcome to Lincoln House. I'm Armando Carbonell. I chair the Department of Planning and Urban Form here at the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. And this is one of our regular luncheon lectures. And even more regular, it is one of our Lincoln-Loeb Fellow luncheons, lectures with Peter Park. He was the planning director in the city of Milwaukee back when we started an institute that we do with the Graduate School of Design at Harvard and the American Planning Association for big city planning directors. And then he continued with us in the city of Denver as a planning director, where he most recently worked. And along the way, he has also taught urban design, and I think continues to be a thinker and a teacher as well as practitioner, what we like to call a pracademic. And he is this year a Loeb Fellow at the Graduate School of Design at Harvard, as well as the Lincoln-Loeb Fellow, which is an extra distinction. And he has been working on the topic of freeways and cities in America this year, and he is going to speak to us about that. So, Peter.
Thank you, Armando. Can everyone hear me all right? Is it okay? Thanks very much for coming on a day where the weather is marginal. My goodness. Is it always like this? I didn't think so. Well, I'd like to first thank the Lincoln Institute, especially Armando, you for your guidance over all these years and helping me frame some of my thoughts on this. I've been thinking about freeways and freeway removals for some time. Was in fact part of one in Milwaukee. So I'm going to share some of my thoughts so far. I'd also like to thank Harvard and the GSD for the Loeb program that brought me here, but also brought 8 other fantastic Loebs, many who are in the audience and who have provided great guidance for me as well. Ian Lockwood, for example, is an engineer who's a kindred spirit on this issue of freeway removals. He's probably the world's foremost expert on it, and we talk about it at breakfast, lunch, and dinner at our house. I'd also like to recognize a number of organizations, the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy, the Congress for the New Urbanism, Better Cities publication, the Next American City. There's just a handful of groups that are working on this very important topic, and of course all of you. But I'd like to share with you a bit of my premise, if you will, of what I want to talk about, what I want to share with you. But first, a personal note, a couple personal notes. I'm going to talk about freeways, but I have to tell you, I should say that I'm not an anti-car person. I know some people are. I'm not. I'm just going to tell you, I'm not. I actually like driving when it's enjoyable, having the top down on a nice day like today. I also like riding my bicycle, or one of my bicycles. I like walking in my neighborhood in very nice places. I like to do that as well. And I like to take efficient transit. I hate unnavigable roads. I hate sitting in congestion. I don't like riding my bike in a very automobile-dominated situation or walking in uncomfortable places. I like having choices. And so did my mom and dad. I'm actually U.S. born. Son of immigrants who came here for a better life. And I lived and enjoyed a very American life here my entire life in both the Midwest, the East Coast, the Southwest, and the Rocky Mountain West. In fact, I grew up in a small town in South Dakota. I think it's the only capital city in the nation that's not on an interstate. Wow. So that might explain something. But here's my premise, all right? My premise is basically this, that I think it's simply un-American for us to use taxpayer dollars in ways that devalue private property. We are at the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. In cities, what would be, what could be, what should be the most valuable real estate in our country. And so what I'd like to do is share with you sort of a discussion in 3 parts, and I would like it to be interactive as well, and I'll let you know when I need your help. This is some initial thinking that I've been doing. I'm not done yet. There's still a lot to learn, but here's where I am so far. So I'd like to talk about the historic Freeway Campaign, and I'm actually going to spend some time on this because I think it's important to understand the forces that are at work in what we're trying to overcome now, what I call America's failed experiment. Guess what that's about? And about the opportunity for a new campaign. And so with the historic freeway campaign, I'm going to talk about civic vision and civic will. Civic vision in terms of physical ideas, from Corbu to Disney. Civic will and the power of communities to support or oppose changes in their neighborhoods. In terms of the failed experiment, I'd like to talk about the damage caused by freeways in cities, an example of successful rethinks, as I might call them, and what I think is an opportunity today, given our infrastructure challenges in our country and the economic realities of our country. I'd like to get your thoughts on whether it makes sense to build a campaign built on the same values but informed by new pragmatism. A new pragmatism that supports the mutual interests of rural, suburban, and urban dwellers, if that's possible. First, sort of pre-World War II, the historic freeway campaign. You know, cities, American cities, industrial American cities, were probably pretty rough, nasty places about 100 years ago, resulting from industrialization and growth. We had this impressive industrial apparatus. These are pictures, I think, that many people have seen, depicting what was happening at the time. And at the time, about 1922 anyways, Henry Ford said, "We shall solve the problem of the city by leaving the city." The problem of the city by leaving the city. That's how some people deal with their problems. They leave them, right? I actually, as a city planner, like to confront them. And a second major influence I think that's important to recognize, of course, is that of modern design and modern architecture and thinking about modern planning, really moving from to a city of objects versus places. Corbu's fascination, of course, with fast cars at the time in 1924, cars, fast, and his proposal for something that never really existed before, you know, the notion of a freeway elevated, carrying high capacity, fast cars, never congested. How could it be? Everything's moving so fast. But also the notion of eschewing the tubular old Paris for new forms, a fixation on the form of the city made possible from new ferroconcrete construction. So in this sort of pre-World War II phase, we also have what my colleague Anne-Marie suggested was almost like a perfect storm, and that is where we had enormous industry, enormous cooperation between business and government, almost to the point of it being not just for profit, but for duty and responsibility. Government at the time was trying to get the country out of the mud, connecting towns and food supplies to cities. And in terms of the financial future, military security, those were certainly firmly in the hearts and minds of many Americans after the World Wars, the stock market crash, the Depression, and so forth. And so you have this idea of design professionals eschewing the past and reinventing the city, legacies of folks, for example, who are very famous around here. And you have this powerful alignment of American business, government, and people. Now, post-World War II in the 50s, and what I call the Freeway Campaign. And it really was a campaign, as much as there was a lot of, I think, mutual cooperation between industry and government. The people still need to be sold, I think. And I would be open to folks' thoughts about that. And it seemed to me, I was reviewing a number of documents and some videos, and there are a few recurring themes. Notions of freedom and prosperity. These are core American values, as we all know. And also when it came to the proposal of a freeway or the selling or the campaign of an idea making a freeway, the idea of congestion relief and improving safety. Now, if you read most engineering analyses today, these are the two that really stand out. Right? You'll always find congestion relief discussed, because why else would we do anything, and better safety. And by the way, does anybody not want less congestion and more safety? Right?